Welcome to episode 3 of the Control Z podcast, where guests get an opportunity to go back in time and give their younger self advice. Now, we've been doing this for a while. What we're doing is right now at this point in time, this is our 3rd episode, but when we have an opportunity for a guest to come over and be interviewed, we take that opportunity. So we've banked a bunch. We've banked about 6 or 7 interviews, and then we're rolling them out every week. Because I'm on tour half the year, I'm pretty much gone for 2 weeks and then back for 2 weeks. Tyler and I, so Tyler, by the way, we have not introduced you yet, is the show's producer.
I'm here.
There it is. Proof, evidence that he's here.
I'm so good at my jumping into these episodes.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it. So we're just kind of working the schedule because I want to have this podcast come out consistently on Tuesdays. So it comes out on Tuesday morning on YouTube and then wherever podcasts can be seen and heard. Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, all that kind of stuff. So wherever you...
Things that we didn't even know it was on. It's on.
There's a few like, we're on that one. So yeah, I think we're on like 9 different podcast networks.
Somebody's using them.
Yeah, and then YouTube has become one because what a lot of people do is they actually just put on the podcast video and then just listen to it as they do stuff. So it's in the background or something like that. But you can also watch it.
I do it. If I'm cooking, I'm exactly that person.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And you do it through YouTube?
Yeah, I'll watch videos where I'm not watching it, but I'm just listening to it. So it's what us millennials do.
You almost have a bit about it. Your mattress bit. Kind of.
Oh,
You're
kinda.
stand-up. He's also a stand-up comedian. This is how we met. Have we even talked about that?
I don't think so. Yeah, I met you guys in Chicago as you're touring through when I was
I think you
living
just reached
there.
out to me, right?
Yeah, just hit you up because I was also setting up my own kind of tours, and I kept seeing your name everywhere popping around for where you were doing shows.
Here's the thing: is like you reached out, as a lot of people do, and almost every single one of my shows, people say, "Hey, I'm a local comic. I'd love to open when you're in town," and you sent that. But what you did is you sent clips, and people don't often send clips. And I go to their Instagram, and I'm like, you have no clips. I don't know how good you're going to be.
Or what you're going to say.
Or what you're going to say. I don't know what kind of material you have. And so a lot of times I just say no. But if someone's like good, sorry if I've said no to, if you're watching this, I've said no to you. But like if someone can show me that they have nailed this craft, they're going to go and give a good show for the 5 to 6 or 7 minutes that they're up there, then I will very, very often give people an opportunity to come and open for the show. And then in which case, Nick, who's been my opener, just moves to what we call feature. So he's the second guy in line, and then I'm the quote headliner. So you came and you opened at was it Naperville?
Actually, this was in Metropolitan in Chicago.
Got it.
But now that's expanded to I've ran into you guys while we've been in Georgia, Columbus,
how many
Ohio,
shows how many of our stand-up shows have you been part of?
Before the Washington run, I would say probably 5, and then I did the Washington run
Oh,
with
that's
you
right.
guys,
Yeah.
and then Erie, so probably at like 12, 14, somewhere in that family.
Yeah, I mean Washington, Pacific Northwest. Oh wait, you didn't do any or you didn't do the Portland show?
No.
Oh, got it. Okay, so okay, got it. And you know what we did up there is we shot a documentary of...
Attempted of.
Well, we shot it.
Yeah.
We shot it. So we were in the Pacific Northwest. This is a few weeks ago, I guess maybe a
Middle
month.
of April.
Okay, and so we went up there and we shot this documentary. We shot every single show. We shot the road stuff. We did interviews with people coming out of the show. And then what I realized, and I had conversations with people about, is that nothing happened. There was no like arc. Nothing was revealed. Nothing was resolved.
It was a great run of shows.
It was a great run of shows.
The shows, we set them up.
I think
they go great, and we have to move on to the next town.
We did like I think 9 shows in 10 days, and 8 of those were sold out. And so it's like, we got another sold out show. It wasn't even like, oh, no one showed up, and it's like there's nothing to work through. Like things that we've worked through. If we've been shooting this for the entire run, the 386 shows that we've done so far, then maybe you'd see the building of something.
The most not contentious, but the most like arcy thing I've had with you guys so far is we were on the last show I did with you guys. Sound wasn't there, or it wasn't
a sound person.
No, there wasn't speakers.
Oh, okay, got it.
And we drove to go pick them up because I happened to know a local comic in town. So that was like, I think that was like the hardest difficulty I've seen so far.
Yeah,
is,
that's
like,
true.
The sound wasn't right. We drove to some random house.
So this wasn't Pacific Northwest. This was Erie, Pennsylvania, about a week ago.
Right.
And so Tyler was in Cleveland at the time.
Yeah.
And so just drove in to like hang out and open. And yeah, I went to a brewery where they had the speakers in the ceiling, and we did a test, and it sounded like this. I mean, it was the worst.
If you're calling bingo, they'd be great.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it would. What letter was that? And so you knew someone in town. We ended up driving to this guy's house, and you got the wrong address.
They sent me the wrong address originally.
Of his own house?
Yeah.
Okay, to be clear.
And then we walk up to some random guy's house.
We're in a neighborhood. And we walk up to the number on the house, and we walk up, and there's a guy sitting in the garage watching TV in his garage.
Just chilling out in his garage, having a beer, having a drink.
And you said,
is this Jerry's house?
Yeah. And the guy's like, no. And then we go and sit in the car as we wait for the new address, and it was across the street.
Right.
And we walk in there, and they're also having some beers and hanging out on
some blue collar work.
Which I think it was. I mean, was that like a Tuesday show?
It was Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, it was a Wednesday show after Memorial Day.
But not having speakers and then us finding it within the hour was probably the most like, oh no, what a problem.
And the heaviest speaker I've ever handled.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing weighed well over 100
Thank
pounds.
God you do all that CrossFit.
I got to do CrossFit. Yeah, I think I got a hyena when I was lifting it. Okay, so we have a few things to talk about. Today's guest is Claude Stuart. He's a writer. He's a comedian. We have a great conversation. It's a little bit of a deep dive on stand-up comedy, but we cover some other things as well. And he's a very interesting guy. And it was a great conversation.
And he's someone I actually knew brought into your fold because I had been opening.
A lot
for
of these
him.
people are.
Yeah, I had opened for Claude when I first started doing stand up in Ohio. Like he would come through a couple times a year. I would end up getting partnered with him to like open.
Okay.
And like he's come to my parents' house. Like that's how long and how well I know Claude.
I
was really excited.
I wasn't invited to your parents' house. But
maybe next time.
Next time, thanks, buddy.
I didn't get invited to your mom's house, either. So
you're always invited. I thought that was understood.
But so once I got out here, he's someone I instantly connected with, and then we started doing this. I was like, I want to include him in here. So
yeah, he was great. I love all the people that you've introduced me to. So who just left here right now? Which again, this messes up the whole timeline. Yeah. Comedian Jay Washington, Mr. Jay Washington, and his Instagram handle. And we had a really also had a great conversation. I love the mix of people, and I was telling Mel that one of the things I missed about this podcast was sitting down and having conversations with people. But the past podcast, because someone commented, I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, they're like, "Oh, Zane's 27th podcast." The 27th iteration of a podcast. Yes, I agree. I agree because I did one 2 years ago called Lightly Toasted, where we sat outside at my fire pit and toasted marshmallows. And then we did one called Crafts and Crafts, where we did arts and crafts at a brewery. The thing with these, for me, is that they got really complicated. Mm-hmm. And I found a lot of the conversation was about the toasting of the marshmallow or about the craft itself. I want to have a conversation with a person.
Right.
I want to learn about these people. And I did one before that called The Zane and Lamprey Show, where someone came in. I did 2 hours of research on each person. Like the day before, I wrote questions and I studied up on it. And then when they came, I knew a lot about them. And we talked about like their professional career and other things that were of note. In this situation, I'm getting a little clip about the person, a little snippet of information. And either I know about them or I don't. And we get to know each other in this conversation with the auspice of having, getting to, dive into their past and learn about things that they either are happy that they did or want to change. That just lets me have a really organic conversation, and I'm
because then you're not going through like checkpoints that you feel like you have to like get through. Like, well, I know he did this, that. I got to get through the list to make sure they know I know all their stuff, and it's like let them talk about what they want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when I've done like a few like morning radios to promote stand-up shows, and the things that they decide to like. So we found this online and want to ask you about it. I'm like, ugh, that's the thing I care about the least.
Yeah,
and now I have to pretend to be like, no, I love going to the zoo. It's so or whatever they decide. Yeah.
I mean, I've been on Bert Kreischer's podcast a bunch, and he just no notes. He just sits there and you start talking, and I was like, what is the structure of this where he's able to do that? Because I was always jealous of that because I just always had to do so much preparation. And I'm a good interviewer. I'd like to think I'm a good conversationalist. And once we start talking, I know the questions to ask and stuff like that. So this format has really helped. And you were integral in coming up with this format. And it feels like what I should have been doing for a long time. And now I look forward to sitting down and having these conversations as opposed to oh man, I got to do all this work. Okay, honey, don't bother me for this. Is me talking to my wife, not you. Don't bother me for a little bit. I got to do some research. I got to get in the right mindset. Now it's just like we get them some coffee or a drink or whatever it is, and like sit down, let's talk.
And it's record. Yeah.
We have a few housekeeping things to do, which I think people are going to appreciate these things. The first one is I'm always on tour. I'm doing a bunch of shows in Wisconsin and Minnesota in the coming weeks. If you live in one of those places, I will be near you. I promise you. We're doing so many shows. We just added a run in basically northern Minnesota. We're going from somewhere in the north, basically kind of almost to Fargo, and across to Duluth. And then we have one Minneapolis one there.
This is the time of year to go there. That's for sure.
I know it is. But I'm kind of realizing that when I go do a tour in the summer, I'm competing with summer.
Yeah.
When I go do I did Sioux Falls, which I'm doing again, but we sold out so quickly at Sioux Falls last time because it was like, thank you for coming here.
Yeah.
We have nothing else to do. You saved us, Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, I'll break down from all the awesome outdoor stuff I have and the long summer nights to come to your comedy show. But look, it's going well. I wish I could be everywhere in February, but I'm also I'm chasing the weather.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a bunch of things to show people.
You're also in Iowa. Don't forget about the good people of Iowa.
Now look what you've done.
Sorry, Iowa.
You've upset Iowa.
Sorry.
And you know how they get. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a few things. The first thing I have a bunch of things to show. First of all, this episode is brought to you by Paso Seco, the best bubbles in town. When you're in Paso Robles, go get this. Okay, the next.
That's an authentic glass sound.
That is the sound of glass. This is so my buddy Seamus Dever is one of the owners of this company, and the principal owner came here yesterday to talk about some branding stuff, some social media, and of course he brought this bottle. We had a nice conversation, and I wanted to show this off. So, Paso Seco, man, that's good Seco. Okay, perfect. Now, the next thing I have here is something for you. And right before the podcast...
For me?
Yeah, you told me that maybe you didn't want to receive this, but I'm going to give this to you. This is from our friend Jesse at Warner Records.
Okay.
This is what I told you I was going to get you. This is a signed copy of the Black Keys album.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Do you want to not tell you?
No, let's tell this. So,
okay.
This is in... Wow, thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's
that
so cool.
It wasn't easy to come by, but Jesse and I worked on it. We got it, and so that's for you.
So this is probably was one of the first I feel very much like I moved to LA with you, going to this CD album release party.
Yeah.
And it was so surreal because one, I like the Black Keys a lot, and two, again, on a list. Ooh, I've never been on a list before.
This was an album release party where I think it was 100 people. Mm-hmm. It was at a bowling alley in what city is it in? Eagle Rock or
somewhere a little northeast.
Yeah, something water. Anyway, and it was a really cool steampunk bowling alley.
It was awesome.
And so they were going to perform a few songs, and it was just a bunch of executives and some guests and stuff like that. And Jesse's really cool about inviting me to these things. I could invite one person, and I brought you.
Because everyone else said they're busy, but
you were on the list. It was Mel than you, to be very honest. And so we walk in the door, and the first thing that happens is someone comes up and Tyler says the guy's name. I'm like, how is it you've been in LA for a month and we go to a party and you know people that I don't even know people?
Well, I think you're skipping over because they were handing food, and I was like, oh my God, free food, awesome! I'm again feeling so VIP.
Yeah, and
the drummer walks up behind me, and he goes oh, those look good. And again, I'm so anxious, new Midwest. I'm like, well, do you want the one I just grabbed? It was the last one on the tray.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch it. It's all napkin. He's like, no, I can get my own. And me walking away and you going, you know that guy? Was no, I don't. I just had the most awkward.
But I didn't recognize him as a member of the group. And that was my problem.
Wish you would have walked over and be like, oh, you know Tyler?
Yeah,
and that would have been incredible.
I know. So there is an album
awesome.
commemorating that you can choose to share that with your fiance for whatever reasons you might have. I don't. Are there any reasons why
she's
she
a
might?
fan?
Okay.
She's a fan.
Little inside story. Okay, the next thing I got was I got this from Streamline Woodshop. This is a guy I follow. I think he's like the creepy craftsman. I'll put a post up of this.
Is that his name, or you're just calling him that?
I think he is. He just does like weird things. So he made me this. This like booze tray, which I have other things to share on it, and so like he made this and it's beautiful, with knives, and it has like a Pleepleus on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really really cool, and I'm such a fan of his. And we talk, on Instagram and through DMs and stuff like that. And I was like, when I move, you're gonna come and build everything because he's so amazing, and it's a great account to follow. The next thing I got was from a police. I'm not gonna say his name, but he knows who he is. A police detective who sent me this this knife, and I don't think that these are legal. I think this is technically a switchblade.
I don't think
is this illegal for me to have? Okay. Well, this is all done. This is all done with CG. This is not actually in this presence.
It's a prop. That's all it is.
I don't know why I looked in Mel's nightstand, but I found this. This is in Mel's nightstand. So I think she put it there for when I'm like out of town, and she put like this like Rambo knife there.
It's hilarious because my fiance has like a throwing axe that also is in her side nightstand when I'm on the road. So
a throwing axe,
something about weapons, and
I'll get her a nice little 22.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I have, this is just something I'm sharing because I think it's interesting. I'm doing so we kickstarted the Adventure Hoodie last year. They were supposed to have arrived in April, May, June. It just keeps getting pushed for various reasons that are not on our end. People are being very patient with that, but they will arrive to our warehouse at this point June 22nd. It was the 20th, now it's the 22nd. At which point we'll get them out right away to anyone who backed our Kickstarter, which we are very grateful for, or people who pre-ordered it on our site. You can still get them now for a limited time. You can pre-order at the Kickstarter price right now, but it's not. Maybe when you're watching this, I don't know. Go to pleep.shop, PLEEP.shop, and maybe they're available for pre-order and discounted. This is waterproof fabric, so I'm working on the waterproof version of the Adventure Hoodie, which is something that will come out next. All right, and then I have. This is just kind of funny, and then we'll get into the interview. But so my friend Hazen Audell is coming to town today, and if you want. I don't know. I don't know how to phrase this other than that. How about this? If I ever want the house to look better than it's ever looked, I just tell Mel that Hazen's coming. She's been cleaning for 5 days, and Hazen arrives today. I'm like, honey, this guy sleeps on the ground outside. So Hazen, my friend, is he hosts a show called Primal Survivor on Nat Geo Disney Plus. If you've never seen it, go watch it. He is just an awesome guy that goes and goes on these treks, and you go along this journey with him, and he lives off the land, and he meets locals, and it's a really, really cool show. One of our favorite shows. So yeah, he's coming out today. To be here for a few days, and he's one of our guests coming up in the near future.
In a couple weeks.
Which, by the way, we actually shot on the Washington run in Spokane, at his house.
Like farm, commune, whatever you want to call it.
It's a commune. There's no people, just cats. Cats and a dog.
Exactly.
All right, this is our interview with Claude Stuart. So you're doing a show right now. You're writing for Funny You Should Ask.
Yes.
With Byron Allen. You're a working comic. You're working both writing, also doing stand-up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so, are you happy? That's such a heavy question.
No, I'm weird for a comedian. I'm eternally happy. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm eternally stressed.
Yes.
Because it's always like, where's the next gig? What's happening with this one? And
also a husband and a father.
Yeah,
absolutely. That doesn't take the stress away.
That's most of my stress,
to
be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I have if there's any blessing of the pandemic, I was very prolific. I was staying at my mother-in-law's. I kept my home in LA, but my mother-in-law, she's older and she was alone. We didn't want her to be alone, right? And a 5-bedroom home was bigger, more space for my kid to bounce around.
Oh yeah, sure.
So
where is that?
San Diego.
Oh,
it wasn't very far away. But I gotta tell you, dude, my mother-in-law knows this, but I love her. But she's addicted to chaos. The radio, the TV. She has a nonstop squawking parrot. All right. My big joke was during 2020, everybody was praying for a vaccine.
Yeah.
Dude, I was praying for COVID.
Yeah. Yes, exactly right.
Cough in my mouth, Nana.
Yeah.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
You know.
See, put me in a room for 2 weeks. I don't have to deal with this. Exactly right.
Oh my God. But the blessing was at 9 p.m., the bird shut up. You throw the blanket over it, and it was nice and peace and quiet. And upstairs, I had my own little wing, you know? So I just wrote. Like every night, I wrote screenplays. And if there's any blessing of it, I got together with via Zoom with some friends. We're like, yeah, there's 4 of us. We started a production company.
Okay.
And then we're actually shooting a movie this summer. We have John Cleese and Sean Astin.
Nice.
And we got them locked in. It's a great independent drama. And I mean, Cleese is 84, and he always jokes about retiring. I mean, it could be his last feature film, you know. So we have that happening, and there's a movie I wrote called Killer Book Club. We have an awesome cast. It's Vivica A. Fox and Monica Potter and Jay Moore and Craig Robinson and Jamie Kennedy. So it's like if there's anything great that came out of the pandemic for me, I'm like, at least we have that. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
it's funny. I did a show at the Ice House last week with Dwayne Perkins, who you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Craig Robinson.
Oh, nice.
And Jamie Kennedy.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. And then Ben Morrison, who we were talking about off the air, which is fun.
That's great, man. But as we joked about with Ben, you had to do the show outside because inside didn't accommodate his ego. So, Ben, I'm kidding. I love you.
He couldn't fit in the door, Ben. We do we? We'll talk about it later.
I'd like to tell you.
TheBenMorrison.org. I don't know what it is, something like that. Okay, so if you could go back in time, and by the way, you can set up the parameters for this if you want. Like if you're like, I don't want to go back and change something because I don't want to have not had my kid or whatever. It's not like this. There's no quantum paradox.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to go back and you're like, because when how long ago did you hear, like Tyler let you know about what this was about? How many days ago was that?
Well, let's see. I guess it was about 2 weeks because we were going to do last week. Then my travel got kind of crazy. But yeah, about a fortnight.
And so how much has it popped into your brain? Has it gotten you thinking about it, or is this something you think about anyway?
Well, both, to be honest, both. Because right when he told me the premise of your podcast, I immediately thought this. I thought, if there's one piece of advice I could give myself as a stand-up comedian, like when I started, or at least when I was new, and man, I still make myself, I think about this, and I have to remind myself of this. I would say this. I would say bad crowds don't know they're bad.
Okay.
You know, like the ones that we think, they're uptight, they're not giving it up, they're like a country club audience, they're just kind of smiling and nodding, but they don't know. Our problem as comedians is like we're instantly comparing the current crappy show to the last amazing show. Yeah. And what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for failure because you're putting the bar way up here, and sometimes the crowds, they're not going to give you that.
So what do you do in that situation?
I just tell myself, you know what? They don't know what I know. I know my last amazing show. They don't know they could be that. They think that they're doing that. They think, oh, we just sit here and kind of do that and smile, you know, and that's okay. Yeah. You're not going to get the wave and some amazing rock star experience every time, you know, and so if you know that,
that's when you trust the material.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then you go through the paces of just doing the show. And then at the end, like, do you ever do meet and greet afterwards and anything?
Yeah, for sure.
So you go back there and everyone's like, oh, that was a great show. And in your mind, you want to be like, no, it wasn't.
Oh, exactly. There's so many times where they'll go, oh, man, you were great. Yeah. And I'm like, could you fucking show it?
Yeah. A laugh would have helped. You know, I don't know. That's the currency we exchange here. Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
And so what is the issue with that? What has not knowing that done?
Well, I learned it later. I know it now, but it took me a while to realize it. And to me, there's a couple things. Number one, there's a lot of wasted energy. I think you can waste a lot of energy. Oh, why didn't they get this? They should have got, you're in your head.
So it's internal things.
Yeah, it's internal. And then it's also, During
the show or after the show?
I mean, both. I mean, you got to get through your act. You have to,
right.
It's more so afterwards, you know. But the second thing is, I just think I don't think it's good for your security, for your confidence, you know. And I think it does more damage to you. It does more psychological damage to you, you know. But knowing that is just it's a huge lesson because it frees up time and it makes you understand, like, hey, it doesn't make you worse of a comedian.
You know, I did this. So kind of my pattern every year I will So we're doing the show at breweries. So I'm doing about 130 shows a year, and
Nice.
that for me is enough time to get a new hour processed and get it.
Yeah.
And
At
then
breweries, you said all breweries.
almost at this point, almost exclusively breweries.
It's funny. I was just gonna say it real quick. The reason I'm like excited
This is
about that.
you interrupted. This is about you. So
okay.
Yeah, all you want.
Well,
we want to hear about you, not me.
The reason I got excited about breweries is because the Sirius XM album I just recorded, it was all at breweries.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What breweries was it at?
Well, so we did. This is they call it now the DMV area, which is they call it that because it's DC, Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So it's let's see. The first one we did was in Olney, Maryland, and what
Do you know the brewery name?
The other I could pull it up
Yeah,
for
pull
you.
it
I
up.
can show you. Sorry, I don't want to.
That's all right.
I can't find. And then I think it was like the Wild Oak Brewery. No, the Lone Oak Brewery. And then the other two, the Ashburn, Virginia, and the other one was in Virginia too. But I can't think of the name. I was just there. Yeah.
Well, it was funny. We'll be at a brewery, and they'll be like, "Oh, where'd you guys perform last night?" And we all look at each other, and we're just like, "I don't." So like, yeah, we have to like sit here and fish for one little nugget that'll lead us to another nugget that'll connect and go, "Oh, we're at this place." Yeah.
Some caveat to draw the line and.
So we've done. I say we because Nick, who you met earlier, he opens for me since day one. Tyler has done a bunch of shows with us.
Yeah.
But I've done 366 brewery shows. So I'm doing about 130 a year. And then what I'll do is after the year, I'll record a special. And then I'll do another year, record a special. And so now I just recorded my special 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to Pacific Northwest, which are big shows. It's a big market for me.
Nice.
And I'm like, I think that they've seen that last hour, and so I have new stuff. And so I'm going to start peppering it in. So it's like it's last year's tried and trues, like sandwiched in with new stuff, whatever.
That's what I was going to ask you, how you do that, because if you're doing that many shows, then you don't really have time to do a bunch of new stuff. But that makes sense. Now
I start to put it in. I start to like make work for it, and then some things I'll put in. I'm like, this isn't going to work, but I put it in, and I do it the next night, and I'm like, that actually, and then it'll end up like being part of it. So there's a few stories that like I mean, they're jokes. I mean, I think a lot of people these days are kind of storytellers, but like, it's things that happen and whatever. So I have to look at those things that have happened. And I've done a bunch of TV shows, travel drinking shows, like Three Sheets, Drinking Made Easy. And
cool.
I don't want to keep telling stories about things that happened 12 years ago. So those are done and retired. Now it's all new.
Okay.
But I did it. But last year when I went out to do my new stuff, I went out to try to do a new hour. Day one. This is in Patchogue, Long Island, and I went out and did it, and it was like the worst show I've ever done.
Oh no!
It was so bad. It was so
was
dumb.
The crowd just not?
Well, it was just like they're like, okay. I'm like, hey, you guys, I can do my old stuff, or you guys want, I can try some new stuff. Like, yeah, new stuff.
Yeah.
And then by the middle, it's like, it's all no, this is real new. Like,
yeah.
I also needed to do a show. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So now I know which jokes I'm removing, which stories. Maybe there's 9, right? So I'm removing 2, and then by the end of this run, which will be like, I think like 10 shows in 11 days or something like that.
Nice.
I'll hopefully be at about 50%.
Okay.
And then I'll be like in the middle, like, so then maybe by the summer, like maybe July, maybe it'll be all new.
Okay.
And then I just improve it. That whole process. So.
Yeah. And then you could do, like what are most of your specials? Do you do 45 minutes or an hour? Or what do you like?
An hour, yeah.
So you probably, I would think you're
do a 10-minute?
Yeah, you're doing, no,
10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I cut it at 7. No, but you probably.
Tight 6 for Amazon.
You'll do like an hour and 10, 15. That way you've got some new stuff there.
Oh, yeah.
Is that kind of, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Exactly. I'll start, but I also try to keep it short and sweet and, whatever. And then it's like, sometimes, like, the crowd work is kind of the trick.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like, let's make it about you for a little bit.
Sure.
But now let's make it about you. See, I'll bring you back to you.
All right. Hey, very good.
Okay. So you went back and you told yourself to basically get out of your head when it's a bad crowd. Now, by the way, I kind of have this is a mean thing to myself.
Okay.
And I tell myself, there's really no such thing as a bad crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, that crowd sucked. It's like, did they? Was it the crowd? Was it the crowd that sucked? I mean, I know it's a two-way street, so you kind of need both of those. But I think it's good every now and then to have those rough nights. Because you don't want to feel good about yourself as a comedian.
Well, I mean, Richard Jenney, the late great Richard Jenney said, he goes, look, man, I've had 5 specials. They've been awesome. I've got my fan base, but I'll be honest, every 12th show is not what I want.
Yeah.
I would say an average of every 12th show, I'm like, for whatever reason, they didn't get, and that's Richard Jenney. So,
but I would even be like, again, after the show and thinking like, oh, that one didn't nail as well as I thought. I don't know if they enjoyed it. And then there's a line of people. I'm like, I specifically know that you weren't smiling. He's like, no, I loved it. I'm like, okay, thanks.
It's so weird. It's kind of like the old the street joke about comedians. Like this beautiful woman comes up to a comedian after a show. Oh my God, you were amazing. You're so sexy. I want to take you out. I want to fuck you in my hotel room right now. And the guy goes, sounds great. Hold on. Did you see the early show or the 10:30? That is such a big deal to us, right?
Know,
did they get that?
It is.
Did they understand the callback? Did they, like, did you ever see this? This is about maybe 2008, 09. I think it was just called. Was it Talking? Oh no, it was HBO. They honored Seinfeld. They gave him an award on HBO, and it was him, and he had 3 of his buddies come on, and it was Chris Rock, Gary Shanley.
Well, they're hanging out in the room.
Robert Klein.
Yeah,
yes,
of course. Yeah,
4 of them, and they're all on stage.
Oh, on stage. Okay, yeah.
And
I was thinking of a different one. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all kind of they're all on chairs and they're talking, and nobody left their chair, right? And then Robert Klein is telling this like ridiculously long story, and he gets up and he's using the whole stage, pacing around. Then he sits down. He gets an applause break at the end of it, and Gary Shanley just looks at him and goes, I didn't know we could move.
Yeah.
I'd be killing if I was moving.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is my wife, this is before we got married, my girlfriend at the time, she worked at Fred Siegel, and he came in there and bought a bunch of stuff, and then she goes, hey, oh my God, my boyfriend and I, we just saw you on the Seinfeld special. You were great. You got up and did that whole thing about Robert Klein, and he goes, did you get that? Did you understand I was making fun of him? She's like, yeah, of course. And then she's like, why would Gary Shanley need a shop girl's opinion?
Right. Yeah. That's funny. So, I get that.
Yeah.
I said something stupid about a week ago. As a woman came to the show, and it's dumb. She was at the gym, my gym, and my buddy was a trainer there, and she was like, he was coming to this show, and he's like, can I bring her? And he's like, yeah, I'll send her and her husband some tickets. And so They came to the show, and I saw her sitting there. And then after the show, people were coming up and saying hi, and I saw her just leave.
Yeah.
And so at the gym, she was leaving the gym, and with a car, and her dog was all barking, and I was like, hey, and it was one of those really awkward like Larry
David
Larry David things where I should have just kept walking. I'm like, oh, I saw you left. You didn't like the show? And she's like, what? The dog? And I'm just like, did you like? I saw you left early. Did you like? And she's just like, yeah, it was. And then she just, I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? What did I give a shit?
Right. Why did you care so much?
Yeah. She's like, what? No, I had to sit her to get back to. Okay. And then the dog is barking and the baby's crying in the car. I'm just like, oh my God. Why didn't I just go and be like, hey, thanks for coming?
Right.
Why didn't I say that?
Yeah. No, you just reminded me too. One thing, and I try to tell the younger comedians this too, is there's a need to please the audience.
Yeah. Sure.
We all have that. That's why we all got into it. At some point, I think, I don't care how confident a comedian is. I mean, even Eddie Murphy, he's motivated by some sort of insecurity that is making him get up there. But so that being said, I saw a very cool interview with Dennis Miller one time, and I used to work on his HBO show. That was my first TV thing I worked on, and he was talking about Richard Belzer, and he used to love watching Richard Belzer, and he's like, yeah, I thought you always had to be nice to the audience, back, right? And one night, Richard was the first guy who was famous for doing Mick Jagger. Like he did a perfect impression of him, and he's up there and he's doing new stuff. He's working on new bits, and this lady's like, do Mick Jagger. Like, she wouldn't shut up, kept doing it. And he goes, tell you what, lady, how about I come down stage, fuck you, and then your husband can take pictures. And Dennis is like, oh, you don't have to be nice to him. So that was like kind of a light for him, and I 100% thinks that's true. However, I think this is true too. When I was first learning, how to deal with heckles, I had like I wanted to write like 5 good lines, 5 good comebacks. And there was one night I was featuring for this dude years ago, and I get up on stage and I'm kind of doing my thing. And one dude, he just yelled one thing out. You know, it was annoying. You know, it was interrupting me, but I was like, this is what you get when you mix Prozac and Viagra. A big dick that won't shut up, right? Like that was my comeback. And I remember half the crowd was like, yeah. The other half was like, wow, that was kind of extreme.
No, an unmeasured response.
Yeah. So, but that was a lesson to me. Like, save that heckle until it's really deserved. You know.
I mean, you know what's funny? Two things that you say that I would literally go back and tell myself is when I started comedy, I had it's not mean-spirited. I just like to bust balls.
Yeah.
And I bust balls on my friends, and maybe sometimes I take it too far. You have to apologize. That's life, right?
Sure.
But with the audience, it's like I was kind of I was a little bit too like mean-spirited or like you know like say, but it wasn't big things. But then I would watch it and you know watch the tape later. I would cringe like, wow, why did you have to do that? And like that person wasn't saying anything. And so I really I've come full circle onto, I feel like it's my job to be nice to the audience. Yeah, I make fun of myself. I want everyone to have a good time.
And that's the first thing I do. I make fun of me as the very first thing. That way we're on the same.
It sounds like you're pretty mean.
You know. If it's deserved, you know what I mean? I'll tell you this though. I am a fan of, if you are going to be mean, just go down swinging. Just go
that's another thing too. That's another thing too. If you take it to the absurd.
Yes.
But you know Maz Jobrani?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Maz posted this bit recently where he comes on stage and he's like dancing. I don't know if you saw it. It's on his social media, but like. Okay. He comes on dancing on stage and he's like, hey, all right. He's like, man, I'm coming up here. I got all this energy. I get you guys laughing. I get this motherfucker over here with his arms crossed. And the guy stands up. Who you call motherfucker? And he's like, Maz is like, whoa, easy.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like, and the guy like was like all amped. He's like, shake my hand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. And he goes, no, you don't call people motherfucker. And he's like, it's a comedy show. Calm down.
God.
But what he did was, it was a very he handled it so professionally, because what he did was he diffused the guy without completely giving in to him, but then maintained the energy of the room, because that thing could have sucked the energy out of the room and he could have spent the rest of his act trying to get them back.
Digging out of that hole.
That's exactly right.
How did he do it? How do you think that he...
He just kind of like, you know, try to calm the guy down, and then other people were saying things. He's like, no, you guys, it's okay. I got this. Relax, whatever. And then the bouncer comes over, saes something, and then Maz is like, no, he's cool, whatever. And he's like, and he's talking, and he says something to like, hey, you know, like, I got all these motherfuckers. Whoa, and he kind of like turns to the guy like, not you, I meant somebody else. And then you can see the guy laughing.
Yeah.
But it's also like,
that's good.
But it was kind of a really good post because it got so many people chiming in. I don't often write things. I had to write something about it because I was just like, Maz, you're a pro. I love how you handled that. But people are like, the other thing with Instagram, if you're like, why didn't this asshole sit or motherfucker or whatever, it would have hid it. You know,
exactly.
Your comment wouldn't be seen.
They don't let you do it.
So it's like, okay, I have to say something without using the word motherfucker. Because it's like, why did this motherfucker sit in the front row at a comedy show if you didn't come to have fun? You know,
that's I never understand that. But that it's brilliant what he did, because he's then he's calling everybody else that, and then they're laughing. So he's almost showing the guy, come on, dude. It's not a big deal.
It became like a big part of that act.
That's great.
All right, so you're and so yes, I guess the other thing too that again a lesson is that like you can't hit the audience as hard as they hit you. So if someone says something rude, if you say something equally as rude, now you're the bad guy.
Well, it's got to be funny.
It's got to be funny.
It's got to be like so surprising. Yeah, or so what? Yeah. I'll give you an example. Charlie Shannon, he rest in peace. He was
who?
He was a great comedian out of Houston. Okay.
Oh, I thought you said Charlie Sheen.
No. Charlie Shannon.
Charlie Sheen died. That's finally.
I know. I mean, this guy. He's the Jason Voorhees of crap. Oh my God.
Yes, how do you do this? Yeah.
No, but he was. So I started like in Houston and Dallas, and I met like Bill Hicks, all his buddies. Okay. You know, and so Charlie knew him. He was T-Shawn Shannon was his brother, and he wrote for SNL. But Charlie, okay, here's a great idea. Anytime there was some tragedy, Charlie had a joke about it, right? You know, so this is Texas, in Abilene, Texas. I think the plane went down, and he instantly, of course, had a joke about it, right? So he's doing the bit, and this crazy big redneck jumps up in the audience. Hey, buddy, my grandma was on that flight, right? Complete silence, awkward, tense, and Charlie just went, all right, well, let's dig her up and fuck her. I know.
God.
The guy bum rushed to the stage. Bouncer got him out of the way. You know.
My God.
But you know. But you know what I mean? It's like if you go down swinging.
Yeah.
You know? Like nobody would ever predict that.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Because how else do you? Oh my God, that's amazing.
He knew he wasn't gonna apologize his way out of the hole.
Isn't that funny? And then if you had a minute to think with that on that punchline, you have so many. But if you have 3 seconds,
woo!
Because here's my response. Your grandmother just died in a plane crash. Why are you at a comedy show? You know, why are you here?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Go to her funeral. It just happened.
That's so funny. We'll give you your money back, bro. There's a rule. Okay, so now you go back. So
Yes.
when you go back and tell yourself that, what age? When you go back to tell yourself, basically, don't get out of your head about the audience like being bad.
Yeah.
What age are you when you go back and tell yourself?
Oh, when
that?
I go back and when I was in that head doing that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my 20s for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, my
Okay.
20s I was like, yeah. I you know what it is? I cared more about what the audience thought than what I thought. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, the audience, they're not the ones writing these jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my audience, but come on, they're not going to be. They don't have time to be with me critiquing what happened. That's me. That's my job.
Yeah.
So stop worrying about them and just worry about your job. That's what I would tell myself.
It's so funny. I think if I would be more concerned, like if you have a bad show, you know, and there's 100 people there and they leave, that's 100 people.
Yeah.
That don't really matter. What I wouldn't be able to get out of my head was the booker there? Was the club owner there? I don't want them to see it.
The really important people.
The two important people that could affect you coming back. Because here's what happens: you come back next year and you do another show. Those 100 people aren't coming back. You get a new 100, and then what's the big deal? You know.
Well, that's the thing. I know there's that whole bad press is better than no press, you know, but not necessarily. Like I've talked to some open micers. They're like, yeah, man, I put this clip on stage and I've got 100,000 views. Great. Now 100,000 people know you suck.
That's true. I would, that's this thing. Oh man, about putting these.
What's happening? Something outside?
Was that a bluebird at my window?
I didn't see it.
Oh.
No.
Do you see my bird seed box?
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry. I was like, is that a bluebird? They completely trumped the podcast.
Hi, welcome to two middle-aged men bird watching.
Yes. Welcome to ADHD. What's that shiny object? It's like putting stuff up, like putting content up. Because some people will be like, dude, you got to put up a clip every day. And I'm like, I don't necessarily, I don't agree with that.
No.
I think you got to swing for the fences, put your good stuff up, and let that tell the story. You know?
You can. Don't get me wrong. You totally can.
Sure, you can. You can do a lot of that stuff.
I mean, I get,
What would Ben Morrison do? Let's call him.
We just WWBM.
WBM.
What would Ben Morrison do?
Yeah, that's right. Quick, register it.
I mean, look, people, some people talk about, Matt Rife, why is he doing all this crowd work? Hey, it's okay, man. You got a special. You got another.
It is okay.
Well, all I'm saying is, like, he just had a special.
Yeah.
He's working on another one. Of course he's not going to put his new content out.
Yeah.
Just do the crowd work. That's
right.
fine.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
that's the conversation we have on the road is like, I'm working on a special, right? So at the end of the year, I put out this finely tuned hour of all my stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put those jokes out ahead of time because I don't want people that show up to have, he just posted that clip and now he's telling the joke. Right. You kind of lose the surprise. But then crowd work every night is different, you know? And so I actually have like an element of like crowd work in there that like, regionally specific crowd work stuff just to see what comes of it. And people love when they talk about, like when you talk about their city, like, I love Boise. Oh, he's the best comedian.
Come on.
Thank you very much, ladies. I'm out of here. So if you can kind of throw in a few things. Now, I've also learned that people don't want you to really make fun of their places. They don't. They can do it. So if you say like, I'm going to Spokane, right?
Yeah.
And if I said, welcome to Spokane, Kentucky, They'd be like, "Whoa,
What?
bro,
Come on, man. This is my home.
Fuck you."
Yeah.
But if I
you got to go with Everett. You got to make fun of Everett.
yes, I learned. I do. I always learn the town to make fun of when I'm in the other town.
Yeah.
But if you go and you say, "Hey, what are some fun nicknames for Spokane?" and someone's like, "Spokane, Kentucky," I'm like, "Oh, Spokane, Kentucky," and everyone starts laughing. You're like, "Wow, we got to the same place." But you did it because you had permission because you live
Yeah, it's like people's kids. They can make fun of them, but you better not.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Like I was doing some like writing like 5 jokes making fun of the city. They didn't like that. They don't like to be called like small town or any of these kind of things. No, what do you mean? We have a sushi restaurant. Okay, sorry, you're international.
Really? Because you're sushi Seth? Yeah, he's a redneck.
He's a redneck. That's a dude. That's a dude that I went to high school with him. Okay, so what's another place in time we could go where you give yourself some advice?
Let's see. I would say, I would say, a lot of comics are split on this. Some comedians go, man, I don't watch comedy. I don't want to be influenced. No, I think it's important to know what's out there. I think that's okay.
Why? Did you go through a time where you were trying not to be influenced?
No, I honestly never did. I like to see what's out there.
So maybe you don't understand the exercise, Claude.
Walk me through it. How does this work?
You're going back to give yourself advice. You give you advice.
No, look. Here's my point. Is this? My point is, if I go back, I would say, what I did though, I probably watched too much. I probably, I would spend so much time and not creating my own. I would study a lot. This is, before I was headlining. I would study too much probably, and then it finally got me. Write an hour and a half a day.
But that's a journey that you went on and led to you headlining.
No, it did. And I was just more, I don't know, man. People say, what's your process? I've always had 2. I've always had either one, you got to be inspired by the joke. Something happens, boom.
Yeah.
An example. There's one. I was doing a USO tour. I was in Korea, and I bought a shirt, and I immediately thought, went to Korea. I bought a shirt. The tag on the shirt said "Made Here."
Yeah, right.
Simple. Yeah. It's clean. I could do it on TV.
Yeah.
I've done it on TV. Cool. Another one. There's one about getting carjacked in a crappy car, and I had a great premise, but I could not find a damn ending to it. It took me a year and a half. And now I have a great ending, but for a while I was like,
how'd you get it? How'd you get the ending?
Well, I realized I just looked at it and go, Claude, what is the premise? What is the premise? Oh, here's another lesson that I wish I would have told myself. Boil down the joke to what's the basic root? Why is this funny?
Right.
Instead of trying to make it funny, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is funny about this? And then I just told myself, I was like, I'm getting carjacked, but I have a crappy car. So if I don't have an expensive vehicle, what is funny about it? Because the whole thing was like, get out of here. The only thing worse than getting carjacked is explaining to your jacker how to operate your piece of shit. Right? It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Get out of the car. All right, dude, you got to come around because this door doesn't open.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Like, nothing works. And then finally, the ending is, he tried to hit me with the gun, but it fell out of his hand.
Yeah.
I grabbed it. So luckily, I'm like, who's in control now, bitch? Like I'm street. I'm street.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, all right, look, the trigger's busted. So you got to cock it back half the way. Damn it.
Yeah.
Finally, I had it in me.
There we go.
Find a way to,
And it just, sometimes you have to like forget about it. Like you're doing on it so hard that if you like release and then the ending kind of fine.
No, absolutely. Because the whole thing, I had the setup. The setup's great, but it's like they knew where I was going with it.
You know what? Sometimes I've had those issues with stories and just like why is this not working?
Yeah.
And I've gone to get a massage, like not a happy ending massage.
Yeah.
One of those. they have them out here. Like you just go into a room and there's 8 people or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just I'm able to just kind of like let go and I literally stop thinking about it. And then the answer kind of presents itself. It's a weird process. Well, doesn't always work.
The massage makes sense, man, because your body's letting go of like kind of what's blocking you. And so your mind does the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're freeing yourself up.
I've actually I've found I guess it can be akin to like meditation, but it's like if I'm meditating means what am I doing? I'm lying in bed, then I either go to sleep or I start playing on my phone. But this is something where I have to like kind of like fight it. Okay, so here's something that I noticed. You were born in Greenville, Mississippi.
Yes.
Your dad was an attorney. Your mom was a teacher. Mm-hmm. Very, I guess, probably a regimented upbringing?
Yeah, they have a good sense of humor, but my parents are, they're not even maybe. They are, hands down, the two most judgmental people I've ever met.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell people that there's more judgment in my parents' kitchen than Nuremberg.
Got it. Yeah.
Generation Z, there was a movie called Judgment in Nuremberg.
What happened?
Look it up.
What happened was... So what do you go back to tell that kid?
Stop worrying about what mom and dad think, because they're not gonna impact your career in any way. You know, they may support you, they may tell you what's wrong with what you're doing, but they have zero sway in any club you get into. Any TV spot you do, any way to make your career better. They're not gonna.
Can you think of a time that you go back? Like, is there like a moment that was like maybe the first time you performed or something where it's like that's the right time to go back and tell him that?
Well, I think in the beginning, like they're super supportive, because they're like, oh my God, you are funny. We saw you in that competition. You made everybody laugh. Wow, you won. Holy moly. In the beginning, it's new to them, you know. And then I remember my mom said this to me. They were talking to me and they were like, Mom, she sounds like Scarlett O'Hara. She's total, from the South. And she was like, honey, most people that go to comedy clubs, they're not very sophisticated, And I go, Mom, how many comedy clubs have you been to? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how can you even pretend to say that?
I know.
I know, though, they're derelicts.
People talk about it.
Yeah. I saw a punchline with Sally Field. Mom, that's not what we're doing. So yeah, man, I would, I'll tell you this. I remember, you know how it is, man. Comedy, there's no money in the beginning. You gotta. You're an open micer. Then you're doing guest spots. Then you're hosting, and then you're, doing one nighters, and there's no money in the beginning. So of course they're gonna judge you. But I remember this. I remember like I called them up. I was like, I gotta borrow money, and blah, blah, and they helped me out. And, I remember, and then they were like, all right, we're not helping you out. I'm like, okay, I get it. But even that led to a good joke.
Right.
So so that's a good thing.
That's the thing. It's like you can't go to a comedian and go in their past and remove the pain.
Exactly.
Because comedy is our way of not being serial killers. You know what I'm saying? Like it really is. It's our way of dealing with pressure. Like as a kid, I was bullied. My dad was incredibly strict.
Yeah.
And then I had problems with authority, but I always could get away with things because of my sense of humor.
Yeah.
It grew.
No, that's great, man. You found an escape. I found an escape, and that's the reason we don't have plastic tarps on our floor.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But it's weird though. Yeah, because now that you mentioned like my folks, I even there's a joke that came out of that conversation where I'll be honest. I try to be honest with all my crowds, right? And I go, my parents have a lot of money. I don't. Don't get me wrong. I don't expect them to give me any of their money. They don't. You know what I mean? But it's just, we live in two different worlds. Like I will call my parents, Mom will go, hey, baby boy, how was my only son? Mom, it's been a tough week. It's like, I just had a gig canceled last minute. Heather and the baby are sick and rent is due tomorrow. We're like, oh my word, that is just awful. Anyway, tomorrow, your father and I, we're going to Paris to go antiquing. Great, have fun. So it's two different worlds,
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that, there's wouldn't you say this though? Identifying your pain and understanding where it's coming from. It's there's a certain solace in that. Like if you don't know where it's coming from, you're like, what the fuck? But if you know and you identify it, and you're like, okay, here's the problem. Now how do I make it funny?
I did. This is gonna sound really maybe preachy, but I did this thing called Landmark Forum. Have you ever heard of that?
Zane, I love you. But
just wait.
You lost me at I did this thing. Oh, Jesus. Here we go. Tyler's locking the doors. Oh, God.
Yeah. Just sit down. Sit the fuck down. My mom for like decades just go to this thing. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to go to this like culty thing, whatever. And so I go there and she's like, I'll pay for it. Just go. I'm like, fine. I went and did it. And it was this weekend-long thing. It is basically like a Tony Robbins thing.
It's work for a lot of people. I do.
Yes. And I actually I heard that I think had him in an interview on a podcast. Chris Titus went to it and said it kind of helped him like just figure something out. And for me, it was like I had all this animosity. My dad had passed away when I was in college. And and I always just kind of felt like he never appreciated me. He was always mean to me and all this kind of stuff. And then in the Landmark Forum, I just a switch flipped, and I realized, no, he was doing that because he was trying to make me stronger. He was doing that because he loved me. He wasn't doing it out of like spite. He didn't enjoy being mean, and it was an epiphany.
Tough love. He's pushing you.
The tough love. I mean, like he would. There'd be a thing where he'd be like, my friends want me to go play, and he's like, you got to mow the lawn. I go, okay, if I mow the lawn, then can I go play? You mow the lawn, then come to me. I'll tell you if you're done. That was his whole thing. And then he just I'm in charge. I'm the boss. And it was, and my mom even says now, it was a little bit mean, whatever. Yeah. But then obviously the humor that I learned from it. But if I took one thing away from that Landmark weekend, it was that you have to change your number afterwards because they will call you once a week. But that's the thing I got from it, and it did give me some peace. Okay. And I think it doesn't take away the pain. It doesn't make me less funny because I think the funny comes from that. You're not gonna find somebody who's funny who had like a coddled upbringing. You know what I mean? Right. You're not gonna find some guy who's like he was the wealthy jock homecoming king and had all the girls. That guy's not funny,
Well, Adam Richman does a very funny thing. I think he did it on TV one time where he goes, "Nobody wants to hear my riches to riches story."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like my dad is rich. My stepdad even fucking richer.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to. This guy clawed his way from the top to the top.
To the top of the top. Yeah.
And it's true. People want to root for someone or whatever. But or like somebody like him, if you're in that position, just make fun of the position. I mean, it's
right. That's what it is. You have to have that self-realization. Okay, so we'll leave with one quick one.
Sure.
One more. Go back. Can you go back to a specific time? Is there anything are you holding out on us?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I could have gone back to myself. Oh yeah, get a puppet. Make the puppet gay, a minority in a wheelchair with a banjo. Sitcom.
There is no such thing as a poor ventriloquist. That is a fact. That is a fact.
You know Bob Zaney?
No.
Okay, so Bob Zaney's been
doing
he a
ventriloquist?
Forever. No, but he does. In his first 10 minutes of his show, he'll go, "This is my act, people. I don't have a puppet."
Yeah.
And then later on, he'll say, "Hey, man, how are you? Are you enjoying yourself tonight? Yeah? Could you tell your face? Because this is not helping me. Where's the puppet?" So,
yeah.
So we all relate to that. But yes, I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Maybe I should get a puppet.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much.
No. You had a question though. I feel like I cut you off.
I'm just teeing you up. I'm saying you go back one last place, one last time you go back, get to it. What's the thing you go back? You go back and you say to yourself this. And let's look at if you feel like you made all the right moves.
No, I did not. I'll tell you this. I've never had a problem working hard. I've always been a workaholic. Okay. I have had a problem working smart.
Okay, and of course.
I think that's what, man, I would go back and tell myself, all right, here's what you do, because I do this every day.
What about a decision? What about a decision that you made that you could go back and be like, oop, that was the wrong decision. Go back and fix it.
The only one I could think of, man, is, top of my head.
Your marriage.
There was how did you, nailed it? Damn it.
What? It's my kid.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I think there was a casting director who saw me at a club, and the club owner called me, and he goes, "Dude, get your tape to her. She's doing this thing. She's doing a new sketch show." All right, cool. But I was so jazzed about the show, and there was a hot girl that wanted to hang out with me. Mm-hmm. There was a whole group inviting me to party. Yeah, I'll do you. So that's what I did that whole weekend. And then I should get that to her. And I got it to her like a week later, and it was too late. They already cast it. So that's one specific. I go
in living color.
I would have been. Yeah, and I would have been playing a black guy, which I can do. I'm dyslexic and Caucasian. But yeah, basically, that's one specific. I would just go back, do not hesitate. If the door's opening, if there's a moment, you got to go for it. You know.
I don't know how to make that rhyme because I know bros before hoes.
Okay. Pimps before gimps.
Pimps before
Sure.
chores before whores. That's what you.
Hey,
that's what you should have told yourself.
Perfect, dude.
That's it. That's our
chores
ending.
before whores.
Chores before whores. That is inappropriate.